With a new year finally upon us, I began to reflect on last year and Nintendo's highly anticipated follow-up to the Switch, the Nintendo Switch 2. The console has been out for about 6 months, and honestly, the launch has been pretty solid. From the initial reveal trailer to the first Switch 2 Direct, to finally getting the console in our hands, Nintendo did what it needed to do. The hardware feels premium. The build quality, the weight, the finish. It genuinely feels like a high-end product. It's a far cry from the Wii U days of Fisher-Price white plastic, and really, it's all I ever wanted from a successor to the original Switch. It's a console with more power, and power is exactly what we have now. Seeing games like Cyberpunk 2077 running on a Nintendo console, and AAA titles like Resident Evil Requiem launching day and date on Switch 2 is something we really haven't seen since the GameCube era. But the instant curiosity and attention of a launch year fades. 2026 is the year that actually matters. It's the year Nintendo has to prove the Switch 2 isn't just a better Switch, but a platform with its own identity. Between lingering controversies like keycards, a still developing accessory ecosystem, and a lineup of games that often still feels tied to the original Switch, there's a lot riding on what comes next. Hey guys, it's Jambi, and today I want to go over what we can expect from Nintendo and the Switch 2 going into 2026, where things look promising and where Nintendo still needs to deliver. Right now, the Switch 2 feels like a console full of potential. The hardware is there, third-party support is real, and for the first time in a long time, Nintendo has a system that developers actually want to target alongside the other flagship consoles, not just work around. But even 6 months in, the console's identity is still forming. A lot of what we've played so far feels transitional. Games that were clearly born on Switch 1 and then enhanced or reworked for Switch 2. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean 2026 is where the console either fully comes into its own or it starts to feel like a retread of the original Switch. And that tension shows up everywhere. Accessories, physical media, and especially with the games. Before getting into the games though, I want to talk about accessories, because this is something that many times genuinely affects how you want to use your console and how you want to play. So far, most of the major Switch 2 accessories have been first-party Nintendo offerings. The Pro Controller, the camera, carrying cases, the dock, they're all great, but if you've lived through the Switch 1 era like I did, you know that some of the most widely used and beloved accessories came from third parties. Stuff like D-Brand, Genki, 8-Bit Do, they all filled gaps Nintendo never really addressed. Blind spots, if you will. For me personally, the most important accessories have always been grips. My hands aren't small, and anything I can do to stop my hands from going numb after 15 minutes of Hollow Knight, I'm going to do. Looking at the Steam Deck, which is still the most comfortable handheld I've ever used, both the original Switch and the Switch 2 by comparison leave a lot to be desired in handheld mode. Right now, Switch 2 grip options are limited, which makes sense given how new the console is, but 2026 is already looking more promising. Mobipad, who made my favorite third-party Joy-Cons for Switch 1, has hinted at a native Switch 2 version. They currently sell an adapter for their M6 Joy-Cons, but a larger, purpose-built version would be very welcomed. We also know the Nitro Deck 2 from CRKD is coming, featuring things like Hall Effect style sticks. Even though reports of stick drift haven't sparked as much this generation yet, it is comforting to know you are covered with this feature. At the end of the day, what I'm really hoping for is more grip options that add some actual girth to the console. Comfort matters, and right now this is one area where the Switch 2 still feels like it's catching up. Perhaps the area that has gotten the most heat during the first 6 months of the console is the form the games come in. During the Switch 2 reveal direct, Nintendo introduced what has now become the infamous key cards. These cartridges don't actually contain the game. They're essentially a license key that tells the system to download the full title from the eShop. You need an internet connection, and the game itself is not preserved on the cart. On its own, that's already frustrating, but the real issue is how widespread this has become. Outside of Nintendo's first-party games and maybe Cyberpunk, the majority of physical releases went the keycard route. We later learned through reporting and leaks that a big reason for this was Nintendo only offered publishers 2 physical options: keycards or expensive 64GB cartridges. Obviously, to maximize profit, most publishers chose the cheaper option, even if it completely undermined the point of buying physical games. For collectors, preservationists, or anyone who just prefers physical games, this sucked. The good news is that a now retracted post from R-Type Dimensions 3 publisher and In Games mentioned Nintendo's plans to introduce more cartridge sizes in 2026. likely 16GB and 32GB options. In theory, that makes it much more feasible for publishers to put full games on the cart. But here's the thing, even Nintendo themselves have already announced a keycard game in Pocopia. That's not exactly a great sign. If Nintendo doesn't meaningfully expand physical cartridge options in 2026, physical games on Switch 2 stop being a choice and start being a compromise. As for NIN games, the Nintendo Ninjas strike again. When it comes to games though, the Switch 2 lineup so far has been fine. Some of these games are very good, and Donkey Kong Bonanza was even nominated for Game of the Year. But personally, I still don't feel like we've gotten that next level experience yet. And that makes sense. A lot of Nintendo's early Switch 2 exclusives started life as Switch 1 projects. Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, and even the Switch 2 versions of Pokemon ZA and Metroid Prime 4. As good as they are, you can still feel the Switch 1 DNA running through them. These games are really enjoyable, but they don't feel like the experiences that push the new hardware. That might finally start changing in 2026. Nintendo showed off a chunk of its 2026 lineup during the November Direct, and this is where things started getting interesting. Starting with Mario Tennis Fever, a brand new entry built exclusively for Switch 2, the Mario sports games have a very inconsistent history to say the least. During the GameCube era, they were full feature-rich experiences. Fast forward to Switch 1, and not so much. The entries often launched bare bones, lacking basic features. They eventually got to a much more complete state through updates, but they still felt like a far cry from the GameCube era. So far, what we've seen in Mario Tennis Fever looks more complete, including a campaign mode featuring baby versions of Mario and the gang, which feels like a throwback to older Camelot developed titles. I still need to see more, and I probably wait for reviews still, but this is the most optimistic I felt about a Mario sports game in a long time. It launches February 12th. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is another big one. We haven't had a mainline Fire Emblem since Three Houses, and visually, this already looks like a step up. The characters, scale, and setting, which kinda gives off a Mediterranean vibe, all look fantastic. We don't have a firm release date yet, but it is confirmed for 2026, and this feels like one of those first games truly built with Switch 2 in mind. And then there is the Dustbloods. Seeing an exclusive From Software game being developed for a Nintendo console, published by Nintendo no less, was one of the biggest surprises of the Switch 2 reveal. It's a PvPvE game directed by the legend himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki, and apparently it's been in development since Sekiro, way back from, 2019? We still don't know how it's gonna play, but the art direction is incredible. It's giving off this heavy Bloodborne vibe. From Software doesn't make filler games, well maybe Night Rain, but the fact that this has been cooking for this long makes it one of my most anticipated Switch 2 titles. There are also a few other games to look forward to this year. Splatoon Raiders looks like it might finally be the more story-focused, single-player leaning Splatoon experience that I've wanted since the original game. A recent ratings board listing suggests it's close to release, so we'll likely hear more soon. Orbitals is another standout. It's a split fiction-esque co-op game with a killer retro anime art style that reminds me of that 80s Astro Boy anime. It supports couch co-op and uses the Switch 2's game share feature, meaning you can play with someone online who doesn't even own the game. That alone makes it one to watch. Then there's Project M, the codename for a new Bloober Team game exclusive to Switch 2. Bloober's CEO has said fans of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Limbo, and Eternal Darkness will feel at home with Project M. If Eternal Darkness and Limbo is truly a point of reference, then I'm listening. Bloober's rise since the Silent Hill 2 remake has been real, and I'm very curious to see what they're cooking over there. One big question in mind is, where is the plumber? Nintendo hasn't shown a brand new AAA 3D Mario game, and it's been since, Super Mario Odyssey in 2017 since we got a brand new 3D Mario game? Bowser's Fury aside, that is 9 years. That's wild. The Odyssey team worked on Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it's hard to believe in full 3D Mario hasn't been in development this entire time. Nintendo historically doesn't go this long without a Mario tentpole, and 2026 feels like the year it has to show up, at least for us to see it. Bowser's Fury may have been a hint as the direction the series will take. It's a pseudo open world Mario experiment in the 3D World engine. It runs at a 60 FPS nonetheless, even if it's a little inconsistent. A full open world Mario sounds insane. I honestly don't know how it would work, but if any company can figure that out, it's Nintendo. That said, I hope they don't carry over shrine style design the way Donkey Kong Bonanza did. I think it's time to move on from that. The last thing I want to talk about is Zelda. The Legend of Zelda turns 40 this year, and Nintendo has a strong track record of celebrating major anniversaries for its IPs. It's hard to imagine Zelda not getting similar treatment this year. we'll almost certainly see more about the Legend of Zelda movie coming in 2027. A trailer feels inevitable. But on the game side, the brand new Zelda entry is still years away. Tears of the Kingdom released less than 3 years ago, and in today's development landscape, that's nothing for a AAA game. That leaves us with remakes. There have been constant rumors of an Ocarina of Time remake being developed to coincide with the Zelda anniversary, and to serve as a showcase, perhaps for the Switch too. I know we got those Ocarina and Majora's Mask remakes on 3DS, but that was a while ago, and a full ground-up remake by modern standards would be huge. The other likely option is a highly leaked rumored Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD combo finally making its way to Switch. Personally, I'd love to see Twilight Princess get a more substantial remake. It is my favorite Zelda, so yes, I'm biased, but either way, I fully expect the Zelda Anniversary Direct at some point in 2026. Looking back, 2025 feels like a strong foundation year for the Switch too. The hardware is there, the third-party support is real, and for the first time in a long time, it genuinely feels like Nintendo built a console developers want to target alongside PS5 and PC. But foundation don't sell consoles long-term. Games do. 2026 is the year Nintendo needs to answer some big questions. Are keycards a temporary growing pain, or are they the future of physical on Switch 2? Are we finally getting Switch 2 games that feel impossible on the old hardware? And does Nintendo still have that one undeniable tentpole release waiting in the wings? If 2025 was about potential, then I'd say 2026 is about payoff. And I'm very curious to see if the Switch 2 can deliver. If you enjoyed the video, a like really helps. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're interested in more gaming videos like this, consider subscribing. I've got more coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.